Welcome to Make My Vision Real, a local resource for starting and growing your small business. The show's founder and host is Susan Swartzwelder, a small business specialist who helps people start and grow the business of their dreams. Today's show is sponsored by Memories and Moments Travel, a no-fee agency and authorized Disney vacation planner specializing in honeymoons and family-friendly vacations. Now get ready to make your vision real. Here's Susan Swartzwelder.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Make My Vision Real. This is our weekly show that focuses on helping people launch and grow small businesses. Today's topic is Onward and Upward, moving out of our own way. My guest today is Laurie Gorrell. She is the owner of Upward Solutions Coaching and Consulting. Laurie is a skilled life coach and professional trainer. She is a master at getting to the core of the present situation so that future actions are taken with more clarity, focus, and ease. Laurie is a certified coach through the International Coach Federation and is a graduate and trainer for the Academy for Coaching Excellence. She has had a successful corporate career of more than 20 years at Rubbermaid and Serve a Relocation, and today she focuses primarily on professional development for individuals who are serious about making positive life changes. Welcome to the show, Laurie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Susan. I'm very excited to be here.
I wanted to explain that in this show, what we do is we introduce you to our audience and explain a little bit about your background and give people a taste of what it was like before you started a business of your own. And then we get into, in the second half, we talk about more about what you do in your business and want to share some of the tricks and techniques over the air maybe with them in how you help people move beyond self-imposed boundaries that we all have as we start to launch a business of our dreams.
Good. This is going to be fun.
Yes, it is. So without further ado, why don't we start talking about what you did before you owned your own company? Give us a little bit of background about Laurie Gorrell.
I started in corporate. We won't even talk about the year, but I worked for many years at Rubbermaid in Worcester. I was local to that area. And what a phenomenal place to get a start in learning business, because it was big and yet it was local people, a lot of homegrown people running that mega organization. And they did everything they could to make sure you had a well-rounded experience there. So I had an amazing experience, but most of my time was in marketing and sales communications there. We moved north for my husband's job. And after we got here, I was at Serve a Relocation for several years. And I was director of client services. So I had clients all over the country and was fortunate enough to travel and help them strategize and plan and move their employees from place to place.
Wow, interesting. And so when you say that you were in marketing, what kind of marketing? Was it business-to-business marketing? Was it, explain a little bit about that.
That's consumer marketing. So it was a consumer goods company. And so the marketing that I did was in a couple of different ways. So I did internal work with the marketing department in that we would design packaging. So somebody would give us the specifications and we would go to work with the ad agencies and the designers. And
so like you would make the boxes for
we would do the artwork for the boxes. So there are engineers to come up with the packaging and what it needed to be as size-wise. And it would come to us for
what was on the box.
What was on a box or a label.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and what was the message that it needed to convey. And then working with the retailers to make sure that they had what they needed to go out with a great campaign or back in those days, it was before digital photography. So it was what color of product.
Okay, we're not dating us.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So we needed to go out with what color of product did we need to send to the retailer to put in their ad.
Right.
So, yeah,
right.
No, we're not dating ourselves at all.
No, not at all.
No.
And so, so when you moved to Serva, then you were in customer relocation or
corporate relocation.
Corporate relocation.
Yes. So my clients ranged from the locals like Goodyear and American Greetings and Sherwin-Williams to I had two different railways, one in Florida and one in Kansas City.
Oh, wow.
So, and some other companies out on the West Coast, some grocery retailers on the West Coast. So I really had a fantastic experience working with a wide variety of corporate clients.
And so when you were working with them, how were you working with them? Like, was it top corporate people or were middle management kind of?
It could be anything, depending on the company and who wanted to be involved in that decision making. So every company is different. Sometimes the purchasing departments make all of those decisions on which vendors they go with. And sometimes it's completely driven from the top. They know what they want to provide. So and it's size dependent on the company. So we would develop policy depending on what they would want to offer their employees as benefits.
Oh, I got you. Okay, so you were sort of the facilitator. So somebody would come to you and say, we want to move this type of employee or these kinds of employees in
groups of employees, right? We might have tiered
right.
relocation policies. So I would work with them to make sure they had a policy package that was right for the types of people that they were going to move. Then we had a team in our physical locations that would work with the actual people moving.
Got you.
And we would make sure they got from point A to point B. They sold their house, bought a house, rented a house.
Got all the services they needed in order to execute the move and stuff. Interesting.
Absolutely.
Interesting. And so how did it come about that you decided you wanted to move out of that and go into small business? That's, stepping out of corporate America.
It really is.
Especially in the kind of job that you had was it sounds glamorous.
At times it was. But the reason that I left, it starts with a very, very personal story, and that's one of burnout and fatigue and overwhelm and frustration, something that I think a lot of us experience in corporate America because I know myself that I always wanted to give everything I had to my clients and to my company. I would be a company girl everywhere I worked, but I burned out.
Right.
And it ended up affecting me physically. But along the way, I hired a coach, which was completely out of the norm. It was, I don't want to say taboo, but it was a little...
Back then?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking a good number of years ago.
Several years ago, right.
Right.
And
That's before coaching was really...
It was building, and that's why I knew about it, but it wasn't regular practice, and especially not suburbia.
And just so that all of our listeners understand what a coach is, we're talking personal coach or personal development coach.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. And it was my attempt to figure out what it is that I could do to overcome the overwhelm and overcome the frustration and have a better experience at work and at home. And it's because of what I was experiencing there that led me to wanting to do it with and for other people.
So your experience with your coaching, now where did you find your coach? Did you know somebody you knew?
It was somebody that I knew.
Okay.
It was somebody that I knew. Okay. So I went with what I know.
Right.
And it was the most empowering experience I've ever had. I very quickly, within meeting my coach, I learned tools that were complete game changers for me. Yeah.
I've experienced that because you are my coach, right?
Thanks for letting people know that.
Yes, you are my coach, and she's awesome, especially if you are a woman of strong mind who doesn't want to admit things.
And you're typically the type of person I would have avoided. But that's where I excel now.
Yeah.
To help strong-willed.
Strong-minded.
Yeah.
Yep, strong-minded, strong-willed women who sometimes just don't want to see the forest through the trees.
You said it.
Getting back to your experience in what led you to seeking out a coach, I wanted to spend a little bit more time digging around that a little bit. You've mentioned overwhelm a number of times, which is, I think, especially with what we've just been through economically, with a lot of downsizing in corporate America, not replacing those who have left and having massive layoffs, and those who are left are having to do more with less and more responsibilities. Overwhelm is just such, it can just really shut you down. And so what were some of the signs that you had that were leading you to believe that you were just in a state of overwhelm?
I wasn't enjoying doing what I did so well and something that I loved doing. I noticed that I wasn't enjoying it. I noticed that I was irritable. And it's not my nature
it's not.
to be irritable, to be snappy, feisty. It's not my nature. And so when I started experiencing a different side of myself, it was a big sign.
Did others see that in you? Was that pointed out to you by other people, or?
I don't know directly if that was pointed out. It was certainly a big thing for me to recognize for myself. I would say that probably got some hints of that from home.
Yeah, I think we all do at some point in time or another.
Yeah, it's a great place for reflection. We look in the mirror sometimes when we look at spouse or family members.
Right. And then burnout. You know, that overwhelm is a little bit different than burnout.
Sure is.
You know, so when did you notice the signs of burnout, and what were your symptoms?
My symptoms, physical symptoms, completely tired. It was very physical for me, the burnout. So tired beyond belief.
Starting to shut down.
I was shutting down, and I wasn't able to support my team at work the way that I wanted to or that I used to. And it was frustrating. That was frustrating for me to be burned out and not being able to give what I normally would give.
And that would stress you out even more.
Exactly.
And overwhelm you even more.
Quite a cycle.
Yeah, it is. And I found that when I would go through cycles of burnout in my past corporate careers, I would be in the middle of a complete burnout cycle before I would even realize that I was being burnt out, that I was there.
Yeah.
And
then some damage has been done.
And then damage is done, not only physically, right, because it does take a complete physical toll on you, but also with relationships and status and all of these other things. Perception, right? And just your overall communication with those that you're in work with. Things really, just the whole environment starts to change, and people are like, I'm not sure.
I just have this big thought coming over me as you're talking about that. And isn't it interesting? We're talking about what it was like for us, but how many times have we worked with people and they've been irritable, grouchy, cranky, feisty, whatever, and to look at it like, wow, they must be experiencing something that totally feels rotten.
Yeah, and there's someone who's very close to me that is experiencing this very thing, and I had an opportunity to practice what you've taught me about how do I come to the party, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the second half of the show. But where every time I would bring up possible opportunities, because I know that this person wants to move to another position, that this person would get really irritable with me about even mentioning it without getting even into an in-depth conversation, just super snappy. And I finally said, is there something about the way that I ask that just sends you through the roof, or what is it? And they just said that I just don't want to go back to doing the same thing if I do make a move. And so I'm starting to see symptoms, and initially was starting to feel like maybe it was something I was doing. And now that we're talking about this, it's very clear to me that it is total burnout that and overwhelm that they're going through.
Yeah. So taking our own experiences and seeing where other people might be having that experience, like, oh, it completely shifts where we are with that person.
Right. So getting back to what led you then to the idea of going into coaching, you started your experience with this coach, and then what happened?
Everything started to turn, and it didn't take long whatsoever, because the coaching process leads you to a place of surrender, really. And it's not a negative surrender. It's really after you've looked to see what's going on and you see it, it's a moment of, oh my gosh. And that's that moment of surrender. And
detachment.
Yeah, and it's like,
you can detach from it.
Oh, and you have to completely just say, there is some way else that I need to be doing this.
Right.
And to have that shift experience.
Yeah, and you can almost feel it like separate from you. and there it is on the table.
Yeah.
And now you can do something with it.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing feeling. It's a good feeling to at least be able to say, okay, now that I have it out here, now I can do something positive.
We're shining the light of day on it.
Right.
And now it needs to change.
So, so you're going through this experience with your coach, and
it was a couple of years into it, actually.
Oh, okay.
And-
so this went on for a period of time.
Oh, yeah, I was very dedicated to being coached.
Okay.
And being coached isn't always comfortable.
No.
But I was noticing what impact it was having for me. So, but it was a couple of years into it, and it's actually my coach said, have you considered doing this? And I'm not sure what that catalyst was for that conversation, but something had occurred, and she saw it, and I hadn't seen it, but it planted that seed. And I'm like, oh gosh, no, I couldn't do that because I was a corporate girl.
Uh-huh.
And so it progressed from there because once the seed was planted, it didn't leave.
Right. So there was a point of no return then.
Really, no return. And it happened pretty quickly.
So you planned your exit, and here you are.
And here I am.
And here you are.
And really
you
excited
went through
about
all
it.
of your training, and
I did.
now you have Upwards Solutions.
Yes.
Right?
I do.
And you work with entrepreneurs.
I work with entrepreneurs.
And corporate people. And you also do corporate events.
I do.
Right? For leadership coaching.
I do.
Right? And all of this since when did you start?
2009.
2009.
Mid-2009. Yeah, I do corporate coaching. I do corporate training, soft skills training, which is communication, customer service. It's some of my favorite subjects.
And that actually can help prevent some of this burnout.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So that those who want to stay in the corporate world don't necessarily have to go through the burnout and the overwhelm.
Exactly.
Right? So, and we're getting the music already. I can't believe. See how fast time flies. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the tools of the trade that Laurie uses. So stay with us. And we are back. Thank you for joining us again. We are with Laurie Gorrell, owner of Upward Solutions Coaching and Consulting, and we are talking about life coaching and what that means. And in the first part, we heard a little bit about Laurie's background. And in the second segment, I want to dig a little bit deeper and talk about what happens when someone comes to you for coaching. Now, being that I am one of your clients, and I am happy to talk about anything because I am transparent and believe that everybody can benefit from a coach, especially when it comes to starting up a business. Let's talk a little bit about that process, if you don't mind, Laurie.
Not at all. It's actually my joy.
It is my favorite topic to talk about with you because I get the benefit of hearing over and over and over again these tricks of the trades and the tools that you use. And every time I hear them, it just gets deeper and deeper with me. So I eat this stuff up.
Good.
So let's get into it. So when someone comes to Laurie Gorrell, typically, some of the things that they want to work on, for me, for example, was I'm starting a business of my own. I know I can do this, but I'm having trouble moving forward. What are some of the other reasons that people come to you?
Oh, and it's fun. And I first want to go back to the words life coach. We've been portrayed with real interest on sitcoms. And I would say that it's probably not an accurate description of what I provide.
No,
because
not totally.
Right. It's more of a business coach, leadership coach, professional development coach.
It is.
But every skill and tool that you learn is applicable to life.
Right. In so many different facets. It is so multidimensional. It really is. And unless you've had the experience of having a wonderful coach, it is so game changing. So instead of talking about what it does for you, let's talk about how it does, how we get there.
Okay.
So,
well, you asked about a couple of reasons people would come to me. So yours was about when you're starting your business. Others, I've had someone that came to me and it was really a blast to work with this person. Her thing was about, I don't get along with people very well that aren't like me.
mm-hmm.
And isn't that the case for a lot of people?
It is.
If people don't think like us, or they have different work styles or what have you, it can be hard to understand them and relate to them and have a good relationship with them. So that's where we started. Now, all the tools progressed and they were able to learn so much more. But it started with, I want to get along with people better who aren't like me.
Mm-hmm.
Some people want to improve their communication because they want to move ahead in their organization and they see that their communication style or skills is something that has been getting in the way.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it has to do around moving forward in their personal and professional lives.
Right.
In one fashion or another, there is many different reasons to come to coaching as there are people.
Right. That's true. That's very true. And one of the tools that you can use for figuring out what kind of person you really are, right, is the DISC assessment.
Yeah, it's a great communication tool.
I've had it done twice, and the second time with you.
Mm-hmm.
And the report that I got back, oh man, I was reading it, and it was just like, oh, that's me. Oh, that's me.
Yeah,
oh, that's
put your
me.
picture on it.
But what was interesting about this report is that it didn't just describe me. It also described the other types of people within the DISC assessment that I would encounter, and the best way to work with those people so that it's always a win-win situation.
Right. DISC is an amazing tool because it is an every person's tool.
Right.
Everyone can understand what they learn from DISC because they're seeing something about themselves and they're seeing something about the people around them. They get to disagree with something if they want to. If they say, that's not so much like me. But more often than not, they're like, this is so me, put my picture on it. And then they have an opportunity to look at the other styles and determine which of the other styles, there's 4 styles in DISC, which of the other styles is most difficult for them. And there are very specific tools and tips for them to work on and with to improve in that specific area. And then there are subcategories, right? So there are the 4 main styles, and then there are the sub-styles, and that even gets...
And blends.
Yeah.
All kinds of blends.
It gets detailed by the end of the report where you can get down to the very minute detail. So it's interesting when multiple people in an organization do it because they have those exact styles of each of their peers. And they also get a tool from me that said, what are some things that you should know about working with me? What are 3 things you should know? And that's always interesting what people want to make sure others know about them.
Right.
And it's very helpful.
I think to be able to have this DISC assessment, especially if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur starting out a new business, understanding what type of person you are according to the DISC assessment is really important, because then I think that it gives you a strategic edge in really identifying the things that you will be able to focus on the best in building your business. Because, of course, we all know we can't all do everything in our business, right? We need help at one point in time or another if we're going to grow and prosper. And so being able to identify those things and the types of people that we want to surround ourselves with is really, it can be used that way too.
Right.
Which is
right. And
so
predominantly
important.
each organization has a culture. So if it's a solopreneur, you're going to have a single style culture. But if you have multiple people in there, are there a lot of dominant personalities? Well, if so, it's a good eye opener to what might you be missing because you are all of the same style.
Right.
So where might you need to look to use your own talents, but look underneath the layers a little bit to get there.
Right. And so let's talk a little bit too about some of the other tools that we use When you and I were working together, there was one specific tool that really hit home with me, and it was the life's intentions sheet.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Love this one.
One of my favorites. And it's something that I start with because it's a building block, a foundation for us to continue to build our relationship. But you work with the why.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do your business planning.
Right.
And consider the life's intentions the precursor to that why. Because our life's intentions are what we want to be known for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the handhold or the foundation or the anchor point for us to put our goals to.
Right.
So when things get difficult and we have this goal of being a multi-million-dollar organization and things are getting hard and you said, why am I doing this? This is hard. And you have those life intentions to anchor it to. And it's a good reminder to demonstrate that life intention in everything that you do. So say it might be about being a well-respected professional.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to take your actions around that intention. Well, what am I going to do to demonstrate being a well-respected professional?
Right, exactly. And so those words echo in my head often, right? Because I'm a strong-minded person.
You don't say.
Sometimes, right? And so my standards of integrity and my life's intentions need to be put in front of me sometimes to remind me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go through a couple of the life's intentions and standards of integrity.
Okay. Well, the life's intentions, like I said, those are the things that we want to be known for, the flags that we want to fly in front of us.
That will live on beyond us.
Yeah, it's, you want to be known for your potential and your possibilities and your intentions, not your issues.
Right.
So being a well-respected professional is one, being a creator of beauty, being a successful author or a masterful coach.
Or a loving mother or
yeah.
a present father or whatever. I mean, it can get really simple and it can get really deep.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's an exercise that I do with every single one of my clients, whether it's one-on-one coaching or group coaching. It's something that we do almost from the very beginning because it is so vital because our actions need to come from that place of what do we want to be known for. Right. That's really what is really important to us right here and right now and take our action from that place. And then you mentioned standards of integrity.
Standards of integrity, which is one of my favorite tools too. All of it is good. But so let's talk a little bit about the standards of integrity.
So if our life's intentions are our why, our standards of integrity are our how.
Okay.
How are we going to demonstrate being a well-respected professional? Well, if we have our standards of integrity, it's our core values, and it's another exercise that we do to uncover those for you. And it becomes the foundation for our actions. So if it's important to me to be kind and loving and genuine and adventurous, and the list goes on. But it gives me a place of how am I going to demonstrate being a well-respected professional? Well, I'm always going to show up being genuine and generous and kind. And in doing that, I will be able to reach my goals.
Gotcha.
Because if we come from that authentic place, it's going to come along.
Right. And that when Laurie's talking about always starting with the why, that is why are you in business and why should anybody care? And that ties back to the Simon Sinek book, Start With Why. So just for those who have not heard previous shows in reference to that, I wanted to tie that in because it is part of the important message, always having a why. We all start with why.
Right.
Right.
And before there was a Simon Sinek in my life, there was the Academy for Coaching Excellence and the Life's Intentions, and that was my why.
So let's talk a little bit, too, about our self-imposed obstacles.
Oh, that's the best, isn't it?
This is the best one, right?
So how many of us have brilliant ideas and we never do anything about it?
Because I'm not good enough.
We talk
I'm
ourselves
not smart
out of it.
enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not strong enough. All of the reasons. I don't have enough money. What will the neighbors think? I don't have the support. I don't have the money. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have blah, blah, blah. And it just goes on.
Yeah.
Right?
We turn around.
Yes.
It's a great idea, but
at the border.
Yeah. Yeah. It's called trouble at the border.
Right.
We go from this place of having the brilliant idea to taking the steps to create the goal to get there.
Right.
We take that first step and it's like, oh my gosh, it's way harder than I ever thought because all of a sudden you're using energy.
It's like dragging a 100-pound lead anchor.
And it doesn't have to be.
But it feels that way.
Sometimes.
It does.
Sometimes.
And so what are these conversations that we're having are?
Well, the Buddhists had the best term for it, and that is how I learned. It was monkey mind.
Monkey mind.
Monkey mind. And what that is for us is self-limiting conversations.
Right.
And I just love the monkey concept, though, because, it's way more fun to feed the monkey a banana and say thanks for sharing,
right,
than it is to listen to it,
right,
or just talk about self-limiting conversations. It adds an element to it that can help us get through.
Right, and it can be very visual. Mm-hmm. And I have had many conversations with you walking around my house going, I'm having this conversation. It won't stop. Peel me off the ceiling. Please help me get this monkey off my back. Mm-hmm. Because that's what it feels like,
right,
to me at 2:00 in the morning.
Absolutely.
Not that I would call you at 2:00 in the morning. Let me just be clear.
I wouldn't take the call.
No, she probably wouldn't.
No, because you have the tools.
Right.
After you've been with me, you have the tools to recognize when is it a self-limiting conversation so that you can get some space from it. Because once you identify it, you can say, oh, there it is.
Right.
There it is. And there is something that is more interesting to be doing or thinking about that will move me forward, because this conversation is not it.
And it can be really an overwhelming situation when we are having these monkey mind conversations. And those who have been coached by you, I know many of them personally because I've referred them. They've been my clients and I've referred them to you to get the proper coaching to be able to handle these monkey mind conversations. And so now we sort of sit around when we see each other on a social engagement, talking about the different monkey mind conversations and sort of comparing notes. But there are certain tricks that we use to get past these conversations. First, like you said, acknowledging that we're even having one,
right,
is a huge step. And I know personally that it took me a while to recognize that that's what I was having.
You didn't want to go there.
Mm-mm.
And
I didn't.
And I think so many, and this may or may not have been your situation, but so many think it is something's wrong with them.
Right.
If they're having monkey mind, and nothing could be more normal.
Right.
It's a function of our brain.
It's biological.
It really is.
Is.
It's science, why
Right.
we even have these self-limiting conversations, because it's trying to warn us of potential danger.
And taking a small step away from that monkey mind conversation, and your favorite phrase, or my favorite phrase that you use is, what's one small step?
One small step.
What's one small step?
One small sweet step. And it's that refocusing on the life intention and the goal that you're going for.
Right.
And it allows you to shift away from that conversation and saying, all right, I hear ya, monkey mind, but nevertheless, I am going to do this small step that is in support of reaching my goal.
Right.
And it's just that shift, that realignment back into focusing on what really matters or what really is important to you that will help you through the obstacles. Because here are some signs that you're having monkey mind. You ready for that? Mm-hmm. Overwhelm, right? We talked about that. Mm-hmm. Frustrated, resignation. When you're experiencing those feelings, chances are you're listening to a monkey mind conversation.
Right.
And so that's the first step, right? That's in part of the acknowledgement, is recognizing what am I having here? What am I experiencing? And then determining what's that next small step toward my goal.
And it can be breaking down a step into
they have to
baby
be
steps.
micro steps.
Baby steps. So it's how was it that we used to say, so that you can't not do it? There was a double negative in there.
There was a double negative, and I know for some people that's difficult to listen to it.
Not do it.
My friend Drew, when she first pulled that one on me, she's a fellow coach, and she says, what's one small step? And it's so small that you can't not do it. It's that small.
Yeah. And I think that statement alone makes us stop and take pause so that we can really sort of settle into what that really means.
Right. If we're focused on the big thing, then it might be just too big, too overwhelming, and we're not going to take any steps.
Right. Because it's that biological freeze, right?
For some of us,
yeah.
it's fight. I'm a fighter.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Right. Yes, I know. Or fight, flight, or freeze, right? And so this is just too hard. I can't do this. But I can probably take one tiny little step towards that next goal.
And that's the very first thing to do.
That is the shift. And you can physically feel the shift. This is such good stuff. And I can't believe that we have to take another break, but we will be back. So please stay with us. We're going to talk a little bit more about a few tools and answer a few mailbag questions. Stay with us. And we are back. Thanks for coming back with us. We are with Laurie Gorrell, owner of Upward Solutions Coaching and Consulting, and we have been talking about coaching around your life's intentions, and especially when it comes to being an entrepreneur and some of the conversations that we have monkey mind wise, and the limiting the limitations that it puts on us and stops us dead in our tracks. And getting past these monkey mind conversations is so vitally important because they can stop you dead in your tracks and make you turn around at the border. And all of a sudden, your big idea just never comes to fruition. And this is one of the real reasons why, number one, I felt that I needed a coach because the business that I created, helping people launch new businesses, was so needed at the time that I started the business. And I wanted to help local people. And so with this, I learned the steps that were involved with getting past that border experience, Laurie. So we talked about the one small step, and there's two other steps involved.
Right. So we started with acknowledging and then taking that small, sweet step, the one so small you can't not do it.
Right.
And another key step to getting through the obstacles is to get support when we need it. And it's really hard for many people to ask for support. When I ask a crowd of people who thinks they like to do it themselves, and hands go up.
Yes.
You know, I can do this myself.
Right. Because we're strong.
Yeah. And it's really
determined.
Sure you are. And it's like a bulldozer instead of crossing the border with a little more ease and grace.
Right.
Right. So asking for support when you need support, and you use discernment. Who is it that's appropriate to help you and that would be willing to support you? And sometimes it can be your coach to support you, and sometimes it's a professional, an accountant, an attorney, et cetera, because maybe LegalZoom doesn't do what you need it to do, right? You need an attorney.
Or you don't have somebody to talk to at LegalZoom,
right? So getting support, it can be big or small. And the next final step is to celebrate taking the actions. And
yes.
It's really about acknowledging yourself. It doesn't have to be a lobster dinner.
Although that would be good too.
It would be good too, but it doesn't need to be.
Right.
So the celebration doesn't need to be a barrier, right? And the celebration is so that you don't just cross something off your list. You're really acknowledging that you're taking the steps because likely that step was difficult for you to take.
And I do what's called the dance of joy. So people have seen me do this. And okay, it's not pretty, but you know what? It feels really good because it is my way of celebrating with myself and acknowledging that, you know what, not a lot of people would go that deep and really try that hard. They would rather turn around. And so I'm really proud of myself for doing this. And that was hard for me to overcome. And it's different for everybody, right? Whatever that overcome is, the overwhelm, the monkey mind, whatever it is, it's just so hard for some people. For depending on what it is, right? So celebrations, huge.
Absolutely.
Huge.
Acknowledging yourself. And I love to celebrate with my clients. I get celebration texts and I love them.
And phone calls.
Yep. And however
yep.
they want to get a high five from coach. And it's exciting and they have that support and celebrating.
So let's talk a little bit. Let's scale this back around here and talk a little bit about going back into how you got into business. What was one of the biggest challenges and monkey mind conversations you had as you were starting your business?
Well, absolutely everyone on the list. And yes, there is a list of
There
monkey
is a
mind
list,
Yeah.
and it's quite long.
And mine is laminated.
Mine too.
I use it so often
I do.
that it's laminated. But about every conversation on the list I had and still have at some times. But time and money scarcity are big ones.
Big ones for me.
You're right. Don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. A little bit of what will the neighbors think, because I went from a nice job to something that was quite different than what the industry was seeing. And so, yeah, I had the whole range of self-limiting conversations. But you asked me, one of my biggest obstacles was when the realization hit that just because I was a coach didn't mean that I got to coach for 40 hours a week. That would be a dream come true. Coaching and training, being with groups of people, whether it's the academy pieces that I train, which is where the life's intentions and the standards come in, or if it's the DISC, or if it's the individuals I coach, doing that 40 hours a week would just be phenomenal because that is my pure joy and what gets me out of bed in the morning. But my biggest obstacle was the realization that I also needed to be my accountant, my bookkeeper. Well, I needed to be my bookkeeper, hire an accountant,
an administrative assistant.
I needed
you have
to be. I had to assemble my own packets, make my copies, have board meetings with myself, and so on and so forth. I needed to be everything, every aspect of a business, and quickly realized I needed to hire a few of those pieces done. Right, I didn't have a corporate structure behind me.
So it's jumping the chasm that I call the difference between doing it all yourself and spending the money to hire someone to do it.
And I
That's
wish
a
I
huge
would have
chasm for everybody.
I wish I would have jumped it sooner. I tried for so long to do all of it, and that was probably my biggest struggle. And still, there are things that I really need to do myself that is not coaching or not training, and that was my biggest lesson because I really just wanted to do what I love.
Right.
For every minute.
And I think that that's true with every entrepreneur. And so there's really no shortcut to learning that part of it. So you just sort of have to live through it. But if you have a coach, you can certainly get coached through it and realize a lot sooner than some of us who didn't necessarily start out with a coach.
And talk about getting the support.
Yes.
You know, I started calling in all the support, even when I was still doing it all myself because I needed to, partially financially. But getting the support of my peers and then the support of the professionals.
Right.
And so it was, using all of my own tools.
Right. So if you had one nugget of information that you could share with someone that you wish you had learned early on, what would that be?
I know this one. It is claiming my market a lot sooner in the process, rather than saying, who will I best serve? And claiming that. I wanted to serve everyone because I can.
Right.
Because I can, because the tools are universal.
Right.
Literally, they're international, universal. Anyone gets them. But I didn't want to claim my specialty, which is women in business as far as individuals that I coach. Women in business, women who are starting businesses, women who want to take their business to the next level or their leadership skills to the next level. That's who I serve well, like I serve you.
Right.
And when I train, I tried to stay away from corporate for a while. And then I quickly got into the training in the corporate environment and found my joy there too. So I needed to have learned that a little sooner.
So unfortunately, we have to wrap up this interview, and I would love to have you come back. In the meantime, if someone wanted to reach you, how would they do it?
Laurie at upwardsolutionscc.com or 440-548-2079.
So, Laurie, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. It was such a joy. I always love talking with you.
Thank you, Susan.
So
it was
thank you
a lot of
so
fun.
much for coming. Well, that's all the time we have for today. So be sure to join us next week as we continue our series on building business around passion and necessity. Our guest will be Jenny Stanger, who is starting up a business around music. Remember, this show is for you, so be sure to send your questions and comments to help@makemyvisionreal.biz. Thanks for joining us tonight. I wish you good luck and good business.
You've been listening to Make My Vision Real, a local resource for starting and growing your small business. Visit makemyvisionreal.biz for more information on connecting to local resources. Send your questions for next week's show to help@makemyvisionreal.biz.